So on Thursday, July 16th, I went to watch one of my most anticipated films of the year. However, as the marketing material started to ramp up closer to its release date, I became more pessimistic and wary of what this film would become. However, I still went to watch it. It's Christopher Nolan, and you at least got to give him a chance because he has made some of my favorite films of all time, as inspired me to pursue, not him specifically, but he's played a role in inspiring me to pursue a career in directing at some point in my life. And I'm working towards that, and he's part of that reason. You know, he makes amazing films, and he makes films with some of the highest highs across all of cinema in the modern day. So giving him a shot with the Odyssey was only fair. So July 16th, I went to watch this film and it was amazing. I would give this film an 8 out of 10, and I genuinely think a lot of people should go and watch this in IMAX ideally. This film does a lot well, and it also has some things that I personally feel like could have been improved upon. So we'll get into the pros, the cons, and some other things that are topics of discussion surrounding this film. I would say let's start off with the pros. The cinematography and the visual effects in this film were amazing. I was really worried going into this film because here's the thing. Christopher Nolan has in his filmography amazing films with amazing visual effects backing them and amazing practical effects backing them. He really does blend reality and VFX so seamlessly. And, you really can't point at a shot and accurately predict what is real and what isn't. The amount he keeps it grounded and he keeps it real while also being these fantastical worlds he's exploring throughout his films is amazing. But throughout all of his films, he's never dealt to any great degree with CGI characters or characters that, would be done with VFX. And so when I saw the trailer for this film and I saw the way the Cyclops looked, I was like, ooh, I'm not sure that I like the design of that. But I went to watch this film and I can say with certainty that just about all of the visual effects in this film were executed flawlessly. I really don't have a point of contention there. Once I saw the Cyclops more properly, I'd say it was done well. And it wasn't even CGI. It was apparently like a real life sized puppet, which is phenomenal that they were able to pull that off. That is genuinely convincing. So they did a lot of great work with the cinematography and with the visuals in this film and with the VFX. That is a very strong point of this film. Also, the dog storyline. So this movie does feature a dog, and its storyline with that dog. It's Odysseus's dog waiting for his return. It's a very minor storyline, but it's probably it's probably one of the best executions of a minor storyline in this film. It really got me in the feels for this dog to be waiting there for 20 years, and then Odysseus finally returns home and he gets to see Odysseus return home, and it just really made me feel sad for the dog because of the way the suitors were treating the dog throughout the film. And I really was rooting for this dog and Odysseus to see his dog again. I just felt like it was such a beautiful minor plot line. I have a big thing for animals, and so this storyline did a lot for me. I would say the emotional payoff for it, as minor as it is on par with Odysseus finally, meeting Penelope and returning to Penelope, not meeting her. There was a lot of controversy and a lot of, skepticism around Travis Scott being in this film. And I would say he was used effectively. His presence is not very much there. There's a lot of actors that are big name actors and a lot of big name stars in this film that really don't have that big of a presence. And it's kind of odd that you put all that money into hiring these actors only for them not really to act that much. It definitely could have been a smaller actor, but whatever. I'm not going to judge Christopher Nolan. Like, he can do whatever the fuck he wants. But yeah, Travis Scott's presence in this film is not overwhelming. He has a very, very small role, and it was used effectively. I actually like him in this film because basically he kind of is a singer, you know, like in real life he's a singer, but in this he's a singer in the period of time that this film takes place in, or this narrative takes place in Greek mythology. And I really like the song that he sings. I actually wish they spent a little bit more time on it, because I feel like, you know, we definitely could have benefited more from having him sing the full song. That would have been so beautifully executed, especially when he's singing the song at the very beginning of the film. I don't know if it's a song, but it's like a rhyme or something like that, about Odysseus and his trick to get into Troy, to win the Trojan War. So his presence in the film was fitting for Travis Scott's history, and I also like the detail that, you know, the Odyssey is a story that's been passed down orally, and rap is like, you know, an oral practice, an oral way of telling stories. And so therefore Christopher Nolan would choose one of his favorite rappers, if not his favorite rapper, to play this role and kind of have that double meaning, one within the film and then one outside of the scope of the film, in regards to how this story has been told. So he like the casting choice here is fitting. It's executed well, and his role is very minor, so it really, even if you don't like it, it doesn't take away from the film too much. There are amazing performances in this film. I wouldn't say every performance is amazing, but like there is a lot of great performances. Anne Hathaway as Penelope, amazing performance. Matt Damon as Odysseus, especially in the last act of this film, really nails it. I would say in the first 2/3 of the film, his acting, like the role and the script doesn't demand too much of him in regards to the acting. But when he reaches that third 33% of the film, that last 33% of the film, the last third, he really gets to shine in his role as Odysseus, and he just absolutely does a fucking amazing job with it. Robert Pattinson nails it as sort of a semi-antagonist to the plot of this story, as the suitor that's trying to get what the fuck is Tom Holland's character's name called? Shit. Let me look at my notes. What the fuck is what the fuck? It's like something with an M. Oh no, it's not even something with an M. I'm an idiot. It's Telemachus. There you go. So Telemachus, he's trying to get him killed, and he plays a really, really good role with him being evil and him trying to scheme his way into becoming Anne Hathaway's husband and replacing Odysseus as her husband and as her king. So he does a really good job of doing that, but also being a fucking little bitch and a little coward. Like he really, really nails that in this performance. So Robert Pattinson does fantastic in his role. Hamish Patel, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it correctly. Hamish Patel also does a really good job as Eurylochus. I really enjoyed his performance. It was I love the way that he acted in this role as kind of as Odysseus' second-hand man. Really well done. But by far, I think my favorite performance in this film is, let me try and say this name properly, John Leguizamo. Leguizamo? Am I saying that right? As Eumaeus. I think, am I saying these names right? Like, I don't want to keep searching up every single name. John Leguizamo as Eumaeus. Let's just assume that I said that correctly. I'm not going to keep searching every name up, because I had to search up multiple names to like properly pronounce them. But John Leguizamo as Eumaeus is so well done. So well done. I loved him, and I loved his character. I love the way he played Eumaeus. I love how well done his character was. How he was fighting for the dog, how he was waiting for his master to return, how he's sort of this wise, you know, old person, and his loyalty to Odysseus. Like, it's just, he plays it so well. He's very charismatic in the role, and just like immediately from the beginning, you're rooting for him and for all those loyal to Odysseus to see the return of Odysseus. So I loved the way that he played this role, and genuinely a favorite character of mine throughout the narrative that we see unfold in the Odyssey. The set and costume design, by the way, is amazing, especially, oh my god, Agamemnon's? Oh, fuck, motherfucker. How the fuck do I say this? I think it's pronounced Agamemnon. Agamemnon. So the armor for Agamemnon is really, really beautiful, and especially during the Trojan War scene or the Trojan battle scene, um, when he enters through the gates into the city of Troy, that is like the way his armor looks is just so fucking good. I love it. This guy was aura farming in the film, and it works 100%. I love his armor so much, I just had to buy the bundle in Fortnite. Don't judge me. But yeah, set design, costume design, really well done. There is an argument about how historically accurate it is, but to be honest, I don't care because it really looks sick. Um, Another big positive for me is the final third of this film. When Odysseus finally returns home and we reach the latter half of the film's conclusion, this film really shines. All of those plot points and all of those little details and all of those characterisms that is introduced in the beginning and in the middle of the film, really come full circle and kind of bookend the film in this beautiful way. It is epic, it is emotional, and it's just like it has you rooting the entire time for Odysseus to kind of one up these suitors and return home to his beautiful Penelope. And the story executes this so well. Like, Christopher Nolan really, really, really fucking executes this last third of the film beautifully, and it really brought it from up from like a 7 out of 10 for me to an 8 out of 10. You know, maybe even a high 8 out of 10. Like, this was beautifully, beautifully executed. Watching Odysseus 1v50 people, watching him like do that bow pluck, like he like plucks the bowstring, that, you know, I don't even know how it made me feel. Like, it just felt cathartic, I guess I would say. It felt so beautiful. Especially with how it syncs up with the music and it kind of gets things into momentum. Like, that's just such a beautiful way to introduce something at the beginning of the story and then have it, you know, bookend the film. Really, really well executed. Also, obviously in this film we get to see the Trojan horse and the men stuffed inside the Trojan horse and the Trojan War or the battle or whatever you'd call it. Those scenes were the some of the best moments throughout this film. Like, the way they executed it, especially when somebody got stabbed inside of the Trojan horse and all of them like go to silence him. Like, that was such a really well done scene, right? And then they have to, what's it called, open the like, what's it called, the fucking, they had to open something on the underside of the horse, like a little trap door or some shit like that, put down some rope and slowly, you know, perform this stealth mission to allow the rest of their army to flow through the gates. That was really well done. And then once the gates open and things really ramp up and there's no more stealth, like, this is a full-on fucking battle, it's a full-on fucking war at this point, that sequence was so beautifully done. Really, really well done. I would also say the score is really well done in this film. I would say that's my last positive, especially during battle sequences and especially during moments of high intensity. It gets your blood pumping and it is executed beautifully. So all of these things throughout Odysseus's journey, especially near the end, is fantastically executed, and I really, really love the film because, you know, although it does have its flaws in the dialogue and in the narrative, sometimes the highs of this film, this is the most important thing here, the highs of this film are some of the highest highs of the year. It really, really did well in that regard. Now, I'd like to talk about some of my cons. Athena is featured in this film. Zendaya is the one playing in his role, and the story presents it in a way where you're supposed to feel attached to Athena. And there's a final scene before she disappears, and with Athena, where she holds Odysseus's hand and she kind of starts tearing up and something. And the story is trying to tell you feel sad for her, or feel upset, or feel bad about the oath, or the trick that they pulled to sever the respect and the trust that exists between strangers and men. And the story is trying to tell you, feel bad about this, but it really, really does not land at all, right? Because here's the thing, Athena's presence in this film is hilariously little. Like, when she pops up, she says a few lines and then boom, she's disappeared. And because of how consistently she pops up, says a few lines, and then disappears, we don't really have time to connect to her and connect to what this story means for the overarching narrative as Odysseus returns home. They really don't execute this well, and I would say it's a negative of the film. Like, they're trying to make you feel Athena's story, and they really don't. Tom Holland's character reuniting with his father near the end of this film, and him finally realizing it, because when Odysseus returns home, he doesn't present himself as his father. He wears kind of a hooded veil and tries to keep himself hidden from his kingdom, so that he doesn't get assassinated or anything like that. Um, and when Tom Holland, like Telemachus, when he finally realizes that this is his father, the way they play off that scene is incredibly anticlimactic. This really could have been a moment for both Odysseus and Telemachus, as well as Tom Holland and Matt Damon, to really act the fuck off of each other and provide something really emotionally powerful, because I was really looking forward to this moment. But they play it off in such an anticlimactic, lame way. Like, he gets to see his dog again, which is one of the most peak moments in cinema ever. Like, I love that he gets to see his dog again, and then the dog sees him and it passes away. Such a beautiful moment. But then it's followed up by Telemachus realizing, oh shit, that dog's been waiting for you. And he realizes it's you, which means you're my father. Well, welcome home. That's all he says. And I'm like, dude, there's definitely potential to do more with that scene, because the movie has been building up to this moment. Use it, play with it, right? Like, I don't care if it adds an extra 8 minutes to the film, or an extra 2 minutes or 3 minutes or four, like whatever. It, like, you had the opportunity to deliver a moment that could have been on par with Odysseus reuniting with Penelope and Odysseus reuniting with his dog, but the movie just doesn't seem to care about that. Also, another con for the film, and this is a very, I would say, minor con, because it overall is a pro for the film, but when it comes to Christopher Nolan films, what I expect of the score is very high. The expectations for any Christopher Nolan film's score is exceptionally high, higher than I would have for other films, because the dude has just worked with Hans Zimmer and Ludwig really, really to like the best of their abilities to create some of the most amazing soundtracks we've heard. Even like Tenet's soundtrack. Like, I love Tenet's soundtrack. I don't love Tenet itself, but Tenet's soundtrack with Ludwig is really well done. Oppenheimer's soundtrack with Ludwig is iconic, and it went viral. And as soon as you hear it, that's Oppenheimer. Same thing with Interstellar. Interstellar has one of the greatest soundtracks across all of cinema ever. It is so beautiful. And when you hear it, you instantly know that's the Interstellar soundtrack. It is something that is recognizable, and it is, deeply entrenched in modern, like in the modern film society. Like, we can all recognize it. But this film, with its score, it is good. It is serviceable. It is great at times, but it isn't iconic. It isn't recognizable to me. I didn't hear anything in this film that made it, as high as I would expect for a Christopher Nolan film's score. So I would say that's a con. I wouldn't say it's a big con, but like that is an expectation that I have for Christopher Nolan films at this point because he's just reached those heights consistently. Um, Also, another con for me is Telemachus is insanely weak in this film. And when he finally becomes king at the very end of it, it feels less deserving. Like it feels like he didn't really have a moment for us as the audience to look at him and be like, yep, he's lived up to the title and he's ready to be king. Like we have these moments with these characters, especially with Odysseus, where we feel like he's earned his journey home. He's been through a lot of bad shit and he finally returns home and we feel like, yes, like with all the hardship he's been through, he deserves to be home. And with Penelope, with all the hardship she's been through, she deserves to see her husband again. But with Telemachus, building up to this moment where he is finally to be the king of their kingdom as a successor to Odysseus, as well as Penelope as the queen, it really doesn't feel like the film gives us that at all. Now, I have heard Telemachus in the original Odyssey story doesn't really do much, and like that's fine, but that doesn't like, irregardless of whether or not it's in the source material or not, I am not changing my opinion that it didn't do a lot for me. It just didn't, and I wouldn't have been mad if that was changed from the source material so that we feel that that storyline with Telemachus having to become the king feels more cathartic as with the rest of the film. Dialogue in the beginning of the film, also another con. Dialogue in the beginning of the film feels incredibly repetitive and uninspired at times. I will refer to a specific example. There's other areas where you can nitpick the dialogue, but the amount of times that they repeat Zeus's law and explain Zeus's law at the beginning of the film feels like they're explaining it to a child. Like they're trying to make me as a kid understand what Zeus's law is. It was like some Dora the Explorer, the Dora the Explorer type stuff. I genuinely don't understand why they needed to explain it that much, why they needed to mention it that much. I understand it is the undergirding philosophy of the film's narrative, but I just feel like there's more intelligent ways of continuing to refer to it without having to say Zeus's law, treat others as how you would prefer to be treated. Like you just say that so many times, like you can do without it needing to be explained every 2 seconds. That's personally my opinion. So the dialogue, especially near the beginning of the film, feels a little bit repetitive, feels a little bit uninspired, and because of that, it definitely could have been improved upon. Some of the editing in the film at points feels awkward, like the cutting between certain actions and things like that is awkward and not well stitched together at points, but it's a very, very minor complaint. I really wouldn't say it's a big deal for me. I would say my last con, I have two more cons. Calypso's story, similar to Athena's story, it really didn't do that much for me. I mean, a decent portion of the film, Odysseus, is spent talking to Calypso and trying to remember things. And it just doesn't feel like it was all that relevant. Like, it doesn't feel like all this time he spent trying to remember on this, like, lost island with Calypso really amounts to any meaningful emotional moment with Calypso to pay off before he leaves that island and returns home for the final act. Like, it doesn't feel like it really amounts to much. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. I just feel like with how much time, basically all the way until the third act, Odysseus is trying to recount the events and trying to remember his life with Calypso. Like he's trying to remember it and she's trying to tell him remember it. And I'm just like, so we're spending all this time with, like, Odysseus is spending all this time with Calypso. Is this going to amount to something? And it really doesn't. Like, it tries to. The story tries to insinuate that this is supposed to be an emotional moment when Calypso essentially says, I tried to have a life with you, I tried to love you, but it seems like your heart, no matter how much you forgot, was already reserved for somebody else. And like, okay, like the essence of that is great, but they don't execute it super well in this story, because once he's like saying like, I have to go home to Penelope, it it she's just like, yep, okay, sounds good, peace out. And I'm just, I don't know, it just, we spend so much time with her for it not to really mean much, you know, like the story didn't need to be from the perspective of Odysseus having a conversation with Calypso, only for him retelling the story to Calypso not really to amount to anything before he returns home. That's what I would say. Now, before I wrap this up, you know, overall I have a lot of cons, but the cons really don't amount to much in terms of taking points off of the film. Like, all of everything that I'm mentioning really takes off 2 points out of it being a perfect film. Um it does drag a little bit in the beginning and in the middle at certain points, and I'm just like, okay, you know, it's starting to feel long now. But again, all of these things are really taking off a few, like a couple points for me, because the highs of this film again are really high, and for the most part this film does a lot of shit flawlessly, and it is absolutely worth the watch for me. Now, what I'm about to talk about isn't really cons or pros. It's just about the controversy surrounding this film, the skepticism surrounding this film, because there has never been as much doubt for a Christopher Nolan movie as this film today, because of how it's portraying the time period in which this fictional narrative takes place within. We're talking about the armor here. We're talking about the dialogue, the language choices, like Tom Holland saying dad, the casting choices. And it seems that what has been the biggest, most repetitive talking point that I've heard is that Helen of Troy is being race swapped for a black woman, and that Helen of Troy also, like, her face is nowhere near as attractive as people would want it to be. This is their argument, not mine, just to be clear. As attractive as people would want it to be convinced that that is the face, quote unquote, that launched 1,000 ships. And I would say to all of that conversation, like, it's up to each of us as an individual how much we really care and what is the crossing line for us to say that, okay, this film is super historically inaccurate to the point that I actually don't want to watch it. And all of us get to decide, you know, where that line is. Like, what is a line that they could cross that we would say, no, this is not a film that interests us, or no matter how good this film is, I'm still going to hate it because of how historically inaccurate it is. For some people, that's, you know, giving a bazooka to Jon Snow in fucking Game of Thrones. You know what I'm saying? Like, to some people, it's like, okay, that's out of place. But to other people, it's the accuracy of the armor. It's the accuracy of how they would have spoken at the time. Not that they were speaking English at the time, or, you know, in Greek mythology, that's not part of it, but it's just about making it feel representative in the English language of how they would have spoken, even though they would have spoken Greek. Yeah, so I would say, like, all of us on an individual level get to decide. And for me, I'm happy to say that my main skepticisms with this film would be how Nolan handles the visual effects, especially with characters like the Cyclops and other things. And that was nothing that I needed to worry about. Visual effects in this film are beautiful. And the other thing is, I was worried about the language and the dialogue. Like, I didn't really care about the armor that much. Like, at some points it looked silly, but once I watched the film, the armor looks sick as fuck. Again, especially uh, Agamemnon. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly. I'm sorry. These names are difficult for me, but his armor looks sick as fuck. You know, like, I really, really love it. So I don't really care about that, but him, like, Tom Holland saying dad made it felt really modern to me, that it kind of, I was scared would take me out of the experience, but really none of that took a lot off for me. Like, it didn't bother me. And once you see that this is a fantastic story that matches the scale and epicness of what you would expect of the Odyssey, it like all of these little things you could complain about really don't matter for me personally. And as for the Helen of Troy like race swapping thing, again, it's up to each and every single one of us, like how much we choose to hate that or like it or whatever. You know, like some people might be offended that, you know, this is a Greek story, so taking something that is so essential to, uh, you know, the Greeks' history and their mythology and all that, and kind of like, I don't know, um, switching the race of somebody, it might be offensive. Again, I'm not too attached to the Odyssey source material, and I'm not too attached to the history of it. I'm just looking for a fantastic Christopher Nolan film. So that none of the casting choices really eliminated anything for me or really took away anything from me. And I don't really care about the race swap. Like I'm not for it. I'm not against it. It didn't do anything against the film for me, and it didn't do anything for. So I mean, it's up to you, and it's like if you're considering watching this film, it's up to you whether or not it plays a big role. But genuinely, I didn't end up caring, and when I watched the film, I genuinely don't give a shit. So yeah, that's my review of the Odyssey. If you guys enjoyed it, please drop a like and subscribe. I'm going to be doing more movie reviews as I continue watching them. I love sharing my thoughts on films with you guys. So if you want to see more like this, let me know if there's any particular films that have already released and you would like me to watch and give a review on. Let me know in the comments down below. But thank you so much for taking the time to listen on my thoughts on Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey. A fantastic film overall. I will probably rewatch it a few times when it comes out on streaming or something like that. But absolutely watch this in theaters. It's a good experience. And that's it. See you guys next time.